I wouldn't call myself great at a lot of things. In fact, there really only is one thing in this world that holds that title for me, and that is the game Super Mario World. It was honestly one of the single largest time wasters of my entire life. From the ages of 10 to 13, I probably spent more time playing that game than I did doing anything else. With that said, you would assume that I became fairly good at the game, and you'd be right. I knew where every hidden character was, how to get every coin, and most of all, how to beat the game very, very fast. I was actually among 3 players in the entire world that could beat the game in under 2.5 hours. Achieving this level of expertise puts a person in the know on certain details about the game. I would literally get thousands of messages and emails from fans either asking me about certain hacks or wondering about potential glitches because I'd seen them all. Then one day I received an email from someone calling themselves Mario Pal at yahoo.com. I wondered how this person got an email address like that, without any numbers or anything after it. He must have literally been one of the first people to go for a Mario email address with Yahoo. Anyways, inside the email there was a message asking me if I had ever heard about something called the Game Over pipe. Surprisingly, I hadn't. As I read the email further, it explained how this Game Over pipe would not just give you a game over, it would permanently remove Mario from the game. He would never be seen again in that cartridge, no matter how many times you restarted it, no matter how many times you cleared your save points or shut off the game, he was just gone. According to the email, this Game Over pipe was made by the game's creator, Shigeru Miyamoto, for reasons unknown to the rest of the team. Mario Pal then claimed that Shigeru would drunkenly bring it up sometimes, and if anyone would ask about it, he would warn them that there were dire consequences to completing it, and to not even try. Of course, that only spiked my curiosity further. So I opened up an attachment in the email with a set of instructions guiding me all the way to the pipe. Essentially, it told me to begin at the ghost house in the Forest of Illusion with a cape, and to fly off at a certain spot to go off the screen, which would bring me to a secret level referred to as Blank Land. This didn't seem too hard to me, just basic running, jumping, and good timing. I suppose the only reason it hadn't been done is just that most people hadn't heard of it. So I powered on the game and began my attempt. I went into the ghost house, went to the tunnel, and fairly quickly was able to teleport to Blank Land. This was when things started to get weird. After the game glitched for a minute, the music turned off and the game froze for at least another minute. Then it just cut to a wide open level, similar to the one that would be in Yoshi's Island at the beginning of the game. However, there were no enemies anywhere, and no music. Just Mario and the sound effects. So I began to run to my right, and before I knew it I had run for close to 5 minutes, which was an absolute eternity in Mario. I honestly began to think this was just some way for Mario Pal to troll me and keep me running like an idiot for hours. Then, much to my disbelief, I saw this little cloaked Koopa in the distant background, standing on top of one of those mountains. I could barely notice it, but then there was a bit of movement in his cloak, and in front of me, a pipe grew out of the ground. Hesitantly, I jumped on top of the pipe and ventured down. Strangely, nothing happened. No fireworks, no sound, just silence. I waited for another minute, and then, for some odd reason, several characters from the game began to congregate around the pipe. They began pacing back and forth. Oddly enough, it looked as if they were concerned. Princess Peach, Yoshi, Luigi, even Bowser was there. This was quite odd, but I eventually got bored and decided to turn off the game. At that moment, something fell over in the kitchen. I left my room to go check, but there was nothing out there. Just your normal average, college-age, single guy's kitchen. Nothing out of the ordinary. I'm sure it was just my roommate sleeping on the couch, I thought, and turned back toward my bedroom. I flipped the Super Nintendo back on and started back into one of my saved games. For some reason, as I clicked one of the games, it just shut off. I pulled the cartridge out and blew on it, pushed it back in, and heard some kind of metal clanging in the kitchen. "John?" No answer. I turned the game back on and clicked into my saved game again. The level started, but to my disbelief, Mario wasn't there. I cleared out all my saved games and started a fresh one, and the black welcome box appeared, just like normal, but no Mario underneath. He was truly out of the game. That was when I heard a yelp come from the living room. It sounded like John, so I ran out quickly, but John was nowhere in the kitchen. And the only thing that was in view was a little trail of dark liquid leading from the kitchen into the living room. I leaned down to get a closer look at it and realized it was blood. "What the hell, John?" I slowly crept into the pitch-black living room and looked around the corner. I could just barely make out a large, shadowy figure at the corner of the room. Then I noticed the shadow was moving slightly. I flipped on the lights and panic flooded my senses. What I gazed upon was a truly horrific visual. The coffee table was covered with my dead, disemboweled roommate, ripped to shreds and splashed about the living room. Behind him was a large man with a saggy, pale skin and cartoonish features. He was definitely larger than a normal human and was dressed in a red hat and old baggy suspenders. His hat had an embroidered M on the front of it. Somehow it seemed that the figure before me was some twisted version of Mario, perhaps mutated by being brought into the real world. He was using a knife to carve his teeth into sharp little points. He looked at me and spit out a piece of my dead roommate onto the floor. His gaze was blank, lifeless. Somehow I came to my senses and took off for the front door. I was nearly halfway down the street when I saw him again up in front of me. I went in the other direction and pulled out my phone. I tried to call 911, but the only sound that would come from my phone was the song from the ghost level in Super Mario World. I screamed and ran down the street toward where I knew a police station was. Mario somehow got in front of me and grabbed me. He violently forced me down a dark alleyway, then got me on the ground and opened his large, gaping mouth full of sharp, pointed teeth. That was when I saw a light come around the corner of the alleyway. "Help! Anyone!" I yelled as the two police officers walked into my view. But before I could see them, Mario jumped up onto the fire escape and onto a roof, not to be seen again. It's been a year since this incident, and still no one believes me. I was blamed for my roommate's murder, and I've been living in a local state-run facility for the mentally ill this entire time. I think he knows I'm here because last week I received a package from an unknown sender. It was my Super Mario World cartridge. I now have it on my bedside table as a keepsake to remember, don't get too caught up in fantasy. Sometimes if you go too deep, you'll find something that's real.